Okay, good. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the mountain that I climbed, or tried to climb earlier this year. And I'll give you a bit of a background how... Yeah? Okay. Sure? Okay, good. How I got there and what happened before that. So back in 2013, so that's 3 years ago, for my 50th birthday, I treated myself to a present because I have a neighbor who climbs mountains for BC Children's Hospital, and they climb the biggest peaks in the world, and you pay for it yourself, and you go on the climb, and you're supposed to raise a minimum of $5,000 for BC Children's Hospital. So that's what we did in 2013, and we were a group of 10. And we were able to successfully make it to the summit of Mount Kilimanjaro. So you see me there in the middle with the Summits of Hope banner, and that's this is about 6 kilometers high, right? So this is the highest mountain, one of the 7 highest mountains. Or each continent has a high mountain, and this is the one in Africa. It's Kilimanjaro, and it took us about 4.5 days to get to the summit, and it took about 2 days to get down. So. I didn't think it was that difficult. I thought it was actually quite easy. I thought it was sort of, well, okay, if I can do this, I can do more. So I said, let's do it again. And it's important that I explain to you, why we picked these mountains, because these are not technical mountains. It's not like you need ropes and hooks and stuff. You can actually hike up. Anyone can do it without sort of specific training. You just need a lot of stamina and a lot of other things that I'll talk about. So the other mountain that you can do that on is Mountain Aconcagua. It's in Argentina. It's about 22,000 feet high, and it's close to 7 kilometers, and it's a really tough one. And if you want to climb that one, it'll take you about 10 days to get up and about 2 days to get down. So no one wanted to do it, and everyone said, Peter, it takes 3 weeks to do it. It's expensive. But I managed to go with the same group, or not with the same group, but the same organization, and get everyone sort of excited about doing the Aconcagua trip. And we do it with Summits of Hope. And Summits of Hope is here in BC, and they do 2 climbs every year to one of the top mountains. And anyone can join. You just have to be fit, and you have to pay for your own trip, and you have to commit to raise funds for BC Children's Hospital. So that's sort of the how they work. And we got the group together under the Summits of Hope banner, and we started getting ready for it. So what do we do? So there's 2 climbs that that the group does every year. I've done 2 so far, and the money that we raise go to a full-time position in the oncology ward. It goes to research, and it goes to what we call a mountain of toys, where we give all the kids who are in the hospital, stuff to do, computers or games or toys or whatever. So, and every year we raise somewhere, I would say, between $170,000 and $200,000. So it's very important to keep that going, because we got someone working there who is actually paid through Summits of Hope, through us. And the research is quite interesting as well. Sort of a lot of children there with cancer and leukemia, and they want to find out, where does it come from? What are the data? And it sounds familiar to you. What it's not a rare disease, but it's serious diseases, and where do they come from? And so every year before we go climbing, we go to BC Children's, and then we visit the kids. So you see there, we hand them the toys, and we talk to some of the doctors, and we take some photos. And no, I don't think so. But you may recognize this person. This is Kate Dozing from BC Global News. She's the weather girl, and every year, when they do the telethon from BC Children's, Summits of Hope goes there and presents the check to her. It's on TV. So I did that in 2014, and I presented on TV the check to Kate, and then she tweeted, "Oh, it was so great to have Summits of Hope, blah, blah, blah." And I tweeted back to her, I said, "Well, if you think it's so great, you should go on a climb." And actually she did. So in last year, she did Kilimanjaro. So she got us a lot of press. So we're on TV, and it was on in different newspapers. And so on June 5th, I'm going to be again at the telethon presenting this year's check to Kate at, so you can see me on TV doing that. So
you gotta let me know
yeah,
the day and time so I can send it out to the members.
yeah. So we'll be on TV, and it's good. And it's important sort of for BC Children's to keep this going, but it's also important to find new climbers every year. So we need like 20 people to do it. And as I said, it's expensive, it takes time, you have to take time off, so we're always trying to find new climbers. So spreading the word is pretty important stuff here. So getting ready for Aconcagua, so that's months and months of training to get in shape. And you cannot really train for high altitude, but we have lots of mountains here. So the photo you see on the website and on the binder that Faisal and Diana put together, that was one of the things that where I was training. That's Mount Garibaldi hike. So that's near Whistler. We did a lot of training there. You need clothes for warm weather. You need clothes for very cold weather. You need lots of medicines because you can get diarrhea, you can get infections, and you take Diamox, which is something that helps you absorb sort of more oxygen into your white blood cells for high altitude. So there's always a lot of debate about that. Is it good to take Diamox, or because it has side effects as well. The side effects is that you start peeing a lot, and you need lots of liquids and fluids. So peeing a lot is not good, but you need to Diamox. So it's complicated to get ready for a trip like this. I need 2 backpacks, and I'll show you later why. You need different pairs of boots, poles, gloves, jackets, sleeping bag, everything. And as opposed to Kilimanjaro, where we had to sort of we had porters carry most of our stuff. In Aconcagua, you go to base camp, and the donkey, the mules actually carry your stuff. And after that, you have to carry your own stuff, which in my case is 50 pounds. And carrying 50 pounds on your back here if you train here in the lower mainland, it's pretty rough. If you have to do it at 20,000 feet, it kills you, right? It's no fun. And then lots of water bottles because you have to, stay hydrated all the time. So lots of challenges that you will face. The weather, and you go with a team. I mean, there were a few people on the team that we knew each other, but there may be people that you do not like, or it's really a team effort. You have to stick together and make it happen. And then food is a big item, because you pay for the trip and the guides take food for you, but you have to take extra snacks. You have to take, you eat a lot. You burn through like 6,000 calories a day as opposed to the normal 2,000 calories. So you gotta eat, and you gotta eat lots. And I'll tell you later on why that is a challenge for some. And long days, so it's tough. There's a lot of challenge there. And then the biggest one is altitude. So what can altitude do to you, right? So short of breath, that's a big one. I had quite a bit of that. So every single thing, and you have to do a lot. You have to, even putting on your boots, you gotta. And in my sleep, we were sleeping together, and one of the guys said, Pieter, I thought you were gonna die because in the middle of your sleep, you were like, it's no fun, and it doesn't get, you get used to it after a few days, but it doesn't get better. Diarrhea is a big one for some, right? I had it in Africa, and I thought it was the food in Africa, but we started climbing Aconcagua, and I had diarrhea from the get-go. So, I eat tons of Imodium to plug it up. But, another person may not have that. It just happened to me. There was one person who had lots of headaches. We had a guy who lost his appetite. He would sit at his food, and he'd go like, I can't eat. And it's terrible because you have to eat in order to do that climb. Whereas for me, I may have had diarrhea, but I would eat 2 or 3 plates of pasta and eat other people's plates because I was so hungry. So it's different for everyone. Nausea, one of our strongest climbers, it was actually a doctor. He started throwing up when we were sort of getting closer to the summit, and the guide said, you're off, right? If you start throwing up at this level, then you have to get out.
And why is that? Why do you have to stop?
Yeah, because you lose everything. Your fluid, your food. It's like it becomes very, very dangerous. Frostbite. So I show you. I will go through some photos, and I'll show you that in base camp you have to go to the doctor. So there's a doctor that checks you, and we were there. There was a Polish guy who had gone to the summit, taken off his gloves, and gotten frostbite. So his fingers were like black balloons. And that's permanent damage. You cannot undo that at all. So other thing, so I had 3 sets of very thick gloves. I had everything ready. So there's a lot of things that can happen to you, and you have to make a determination whether, do you carry on or you don't carry on, because it's, it could actually, and this is what happened too, it could actually kill you. So when we were there was a 76-year-old Japanese climber who had climbed Everest. We met the guy in one of the earlier climbs, and when we were on the mountain, he was trying to summit, he fell, and he died. So that was the first casualty on the mountain that year. Normally it's like 4 or 5 people who die on a mountain like that. So it's, you're playing with some very serious stuff. So it's a real challenge, and you have to be very careful, which is why there also, in most of the camps, there's doctors that check on you, see if you're okay. 3? You don't want to know, Malcolm. You don't want to know. Okay, so it's so this is sort of on day one. It was pretty. It's summer there, so we're in February, so it's summer in Latin America. So you cannot go now because it's winter there. It's getting to be winter there now, and here we are, sort of getting ready to set off into the climb. And beautiful, beautiful, spectacular scenery. So that is the Aconcagua mountain. We could see it right from the beginning.
It actually looks like, when you're coming down the freeway and all of a sudden Mount Baker is just like, what is that?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a real beast of a mountain. It's huge. It's huge. I've traveled all over the world, but what I saw in Argentina in terms of huge mountains, it's like spectacular, and it's pretty big. So this is the first camp. So you get to a camp. And there's tents there, and you sleep there, and you eat there, and you wash yourself, and you try and relax and recover from the day.
So those white tents are there all the time?
Yeah. Until base camp, you have these tents that are set up for you, and there's like bunk beds, and you bring your own backpack, and you sleep there. After that, you go, and you'll see that later. You go into smaller tents. So what you do then, because you're at such high altitude. You do what they do, acclimatization hike. So the next day you go up, but you come back to camp just to get used to the altitude. So this is what we did on day 2. We got to a certain point, had some lunch. These are like 6-hour hikes, right? So it's not a walk in the park. And then your body steadily is supposed to adjust to that, and then you hike back. So as you can see here, and that is what I find so fascinating. This is why I like it. You don't see any plants or trees or nothing, And what does it tell you? It's like human beings are not supposed to be there. Nothing lives. It's like you're on the moon, pretty much. You're that high, and that's I find it amazing. So that's me in front of the mountain. It's called Plaza Francia, and just getting there and walking around in sort of valley of rocks. I thought it was super cool and fascinating and worth. If the trip had stopped there, I would have been happy, right?
Is there any wildlife?
There's nothing.
Nothing.
At the lower levels, you see some foxes and some deer, but at that level, there's nothing. There's a bit of life, and you'll see it there. So here we go, visit the doctor. This is actually where we saw the person who died a few days later. So they go check your blood pressure. How you feel. They do your lungs is particular. One of our guys, this guy here with the baseball cap up on the right, that's Don. He's my neighbor. He got me into this. He had pneumonia, right? And he was like, he should not have gone any further, but he's a very, very tough guy. So he kept going. But the doctor said, you got to take it very easy. And when they do acclimatization hike, you're not going. You're staying in your tent, you sleep, and you rest. So he got better over time. So we all had different issues to deal with. So it was good there was a doctor checking on us. And this is then how you look. So you all have sort of 2 of these big North Face bags. North Face actually sponsoring us. So they're not paying for a trip, but they give us the tents and they give us the duffel bags, which are pretty sturdy bags. But they go on the mules to base camp. And then after that, you have to carry your own stuff. So you have to be very careful what you bring because, once you get to base camp, after that, you have to carry your own shit. That's pretty much it. So on day 3, we sort of carried on to base camp, and that was a long day. That was like about 9 or 10 hours. And, you just hike. You don't do anything else. And some people put some music on, and some people start talk a lot. And I remember at Kilimanjaro, that was one of the team leaders. That guys stopped talking because it's fun to talk, but you need your breath. You need to be focused. It's not a casual walk in the park. It's not. So I didn't talk that much. And it's a good time to sort of reflect on life. You're on your own, and you're away from family and work, and you think about other things in life. So I thought that is really valuable, apart from the landscape and the challenge, etc., to sort of be on your own. In the mountains. And this is on our way to base camp. So you see the mules there. And then you arrive at base camp, and that's sort of the last point of civilization. So it's pretty high. It's a little village. It's only open in what they call the season, the summer months. And there's a doctor again there. You can do internet there. There's a helicopter coming in every morning, ferrying out people who got sick or got seriously injured. So every morning you would wake up to the sound of choppers, and that's that's pretty. It's a bit distressing, right? It's. I said it to the other guys. It's no fun anymore. It's from there on. It's really serious business, and you have to start evaluating. Can I carry on, and is it safe to carry on, and things like that. Luckily, there was internet, so I could internet with my wife and family and check in with them.
I
Yeah.
actually got to follow Peter. He sent me a link.
Yeah. So yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so what we had the satellite phone, so we dial in updates and it would go straight to the Summits of Hope website. So family and friends could follow us and listen to us when we dial in these updates when we're doing it.
And I get off there going, okay, cool.
Yeah. So, and then at night it's very cold there. It like freezes 10, 20 degrees. Like my contact lenses, you put your contact lenses in, they were frozen. And like it's stuff like that. You don't know, right? You don't realize that. So, and then during the day, the sun comes out, and it was pretty warm. You could sit in the sun, have a cup of coffee, and so yeah. Here's another shot of the bay. I found it a pretty fascinating place. So this is the home. So there's some beds there. You dump your stuff, and you spend most of your spare time sort of planning it, because what am I going to take up to the next camp, right? What not? And you have to drink a lot. So it was every day. It was, Peter, have you drunk your 4 liters of water, because you got to stay high. And I'm not very good at that. I don't drink that much. I hate drinking water the whole time, because you got to pee the whole time. And that's inconvenient, especially when this is the washroom, right? So, and if you got diarrhea and you got to pee the whole time, and it's like minus 20 outside, it's no fun in the middle of the night, right? So you wake up, gotta go out, and you put on your lights, and do your thing at the thing. So that's what it's like. So we got good food though. So they cook for you, and in Argentina they make you tons of beef and pizza and pasta. So we were not hungry at all, apart from the guys who couldn't really eat that much and drink a lot. And it was a time to get together with all the other climbers and exchange, because there were people going up and coming down. So you were hearing all the horror stories of what was not good, and So we had a rest day there. So just to explain, so we got there, we had a rest day, and then day 5 we go up to deliver some equipment, some tents and food and stuff, and then come back, have another rest day, and then you go back up again, and from there on you climb. So it was 2 heavy climbs, and from there on, as you can see, I wear different boots. So these are real boots that are good on ice, and they're like ski boots, and it was pretty steep. And you're carrying your 40 or 50 pounds to Camp 1, drop everything, and then go back down again and for the rest day. So, I normally when I hike, I don't have poles, but because you got so much weight on your back, I had to sort of carry the poles. On this photo, when I was putting the presentation together for you guys yesterday, I was still wearing my wedding ring, but I had to take it off because my hands were sort of growing in size. It was sort of swelling, yeah. So they said, take off your wedding ring, and because of the acromegaly, with the bone here, it was stuck. So we spent like 2 hours getting my wedding ring off. So I said to my wife, I'm not going to put it back on again. We're going to leave it off for a little while because it's an issue, right? So anyway.
So your hands swell, but you cannot still not wear your wedding ring?
No, it'd be hard to put it back on.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
That's one of the symptoms I had. My wedding ring,
Yeah,
getting smaller.
yeah, exactly.
My finger got bigger.
Exactly, yeah. So that was, so that's me again, and as you can see, the landscape is spectacular. It's sort of, but you don't have really time to pay attention to it. So we had a doctor on our team, and he was good. A lot of the photos are taken by the doctor, and he was taking photos all the time because everyone, you're so busy with doing the hike, with carrying your stuff and keeping focused, and gloves on, and then sunscreen on because it's burning like crazy. That's the other thing that I forgot to mention. Because the oxygen is so thin, so you get burned very quickly. These are also special sunglasses. I was wearing them today in the car. You're not supposed to wear them because the glasses are, when you drive, because the glasses are so thick and they sort of go around. And yeah, this is what I like. I find it fascinating. I can look at this for hours, and when you sit there, you see no people, no animals, no trees, no nothing. You're on a different planet, And at night, you can imagine when the stars are out, it's spectacular. So we got back to the base camp, and this is sort of everyone who donated funds for BC Children's gets to write a prayer flag. And Diana and her family contributed, and she put up Vancouver Acromegaly Support Group. So that was a yellow flag, and we flew it on the mountain.
My parents made it. I suggested they put Vancouver at Wrigley Support. My
Yeah.
parents are very supportive, so.
Yeah, so and have you donated, and it's you know, so all these flags are out there, and that's how we sort of, you know, try and give some you know, some color to sort of, you know, the whole giving process, and give people some feedback. And you get pretty emotional images of texts or messages from people on the flags, because people who have lost children, who have dealt with cancer or rare diseases, whatever, they have very personal messages, and it wasn't hard to raise money for me because I know a lot of people through my business, and I emailed it out, and everyone says, yeah, Pieter, I put in 100, 200, 50, 40, and I said, if you do 40, you can write a flag, and we'll take it up the mountain. So that's what we did. So day 7, we got back to the camp where we were before, and you can see the tents where we're staying, and that was the point that it got a bit more tricky. So we left behind 2 people who did not come along. Another guy who got a severe cold, and one guy who was the guy who couldn't eat. Right? He said, "I go back. I'm going to sit right out on a mule. I'm too miserable." And this was also the day that I got problems. So the next day we woke up. We had one person throwing up, one person a headache. You know, I had severe exhaustion sort of signs. So we didn't carry on much longer after that. So this is before we went to bed. So, and there's not much you can do, right? You know. In base camp, you could hang around and talk to people, but there, you know, it starts to get cold very early, like 6, 7 o'clock. You have something to eat, and you go in your tent, and you just lay there. And you don't sleep very well because of the altitude. You're breathing very heavily, so you wake up a lot, and then these are also the moments that you go like, what am I doing here, right? This is not a great spot to be. And you start to think of your family, your kids, and like, you know, it's not fair to them if something happens to me here, you know. Now, this is the first time that I didn't have it on Kilimanjaro, but I had it here that I go like, well, I really have to balance. Is it smart to carry on and push myself to the absolute limit? Is it worth it?
Well, yeah, with the smaller ones, so
Yeah.
it's just not maybe definitely tackle the higher ones anymore.
Yeah.
But still do the smaller
You're not
ones.
supposed to die.
No, it's a sport. It's supposed to be sort of fun, right? So you're not going to the Olympics to die, right? It's not, no. So anyway, so this is how so we pack up the next day, and then you pick everything up and you carry on. But sort of after day 9, and that was the last day, sort of everyone came down to base camp. And it was sort of 1 out of 5 people make it to the summit. Whereas at Kilimanjaro, 9 out of 10 people can make that. But this is so much difficult, so that, you know, we all of us decided to come back, to base camp after day 9. And we sort of, and this is me after the climb. So I grew my beard, I had a thing on, and I was sort of relieved to get back into base camp. And we stayed an extra day there to sort of recover and eat and talk to everyone and sort of evaluate what happened. Because it's also pretty for some reason, it's when you're that high on the mountain, you do something like that, it's pretty emotional. You get pretty, people start crying, and you're in a different world. So yeah, it's a different spin. So you have to sort of recalibrate a few days. And at day 11, we were sort of, we were all ready to hike back. And these are all, people, the group of 10 men and women, we were all sort of 40. The youngest was 32, the oldest was 54. So it's all ages, all sorts of backgrounds. But you share that common interest in doing something crazy like climbing high mountains. And it turned out we had a very good group. I was a bit worried because we didn't know all of each other, but it was a very solid group. We had tons of fun, and we really helped each other out, right? The guys that were sick helped the other people, and with my wedding ring, there was a nurse on the team, and she said, "Oh, I can help you with that." So she worked on that for a few hours. So everyone had different skills and abilities to help the other. So and I think you can only get very far when you have a good team, as with most things in life, I think. So. This is a photo. Actually, this you see the guy here in the green. He stumbles, right? That happened to me as well. It's very rocky, loose rock, so it's easy to fall. And I fell on my elbow here, and it was bleeding profuse. That was actually, I fell before he fell a few days earlier. And I came back to Vancouver and I thought it was fine, and then all of a sudden it ballooned. And I went to see a doctor, and she put me on antibiotics. Said, Peter, this is serious shit. So, it's stuff like that happens, right? And this guy, you see him falling. He's the most seasoned guy. He summited this mountain years before. So, you have to be careful, and you forget about it, right? When you're talking or thinking, and you have to keep paying attention where you put your feet and what's going on around you, because it is not safe. And it was a very windy day when we walked out, but I think that this was a spectacular photo. So, after four hours, you get tired, you have lunch, you drink something, and then it's like, guys, we need to move on because we got only so many hours in the day. And then you see it turn green again in the long walk out. And there we got to the finish. So that's me. With the one other guy. This is one of the guys who was very sick. He's one of the first ones to drop out. And the guys in the red and blue, these were the Argentinian guides. So these are teachers, and it was their summer holidays. So they run a business where they guide people up the mountain. That's how they, part of their way of making money. And so that's the local guys, and they give you all the tips, what to do, what not to do, and they see if you're okay, and they do the food, etc. So, we came back alive. We're very happy, and we went back to the place, and I had a few cold beers, and these were the best beers I ever had. It tastes like gold, I tell you. It was so good. So we didn't reach the summit. So, but I can say this group raised about $100,000 for BC Children's. I visited Argentina for the first time. Never done that before, so it was very interesting. We got very high under very difficult circumstances. And we came close to the summit. We made friends, and we challenged ourselves. So I think it was a success. Even though you didn't get to the summit, it was a success. It was a success for everyone. Even if we had to give up earlier, it would still have been a success. If you can pull this together with a group of people, half of them you don't know, you raise money for BC Children's, and you do something like that, I think it's what makes life worth living. So maybe we'll try it again. Although my wife said, Peter, next time let's you and I go, and then we go something that's a bit more, a bit more flat and a bit more, because this is pretty extreme. Yeah, yeah, that would be a good one.
You just need to come to Chilliwack, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
There's some beautiful hiking trails.
Yeah. So we flew back, and we flew right over the mountain. So I knew we're going to fly over it. I said, I want a seat on the right.
Yeah.
And so you can see here, this is how we walked. We started somewhere here, and we walked all the way here.
Wow.
And we just didn't get that part, but the base camp was somewhere here.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and I was sitting in the plane, it's like, wow. So I put it on Facebook, and then you get lots of response from people, and then it gets sort of emotional when you come back in the civilized world, because it turns out everyone's been following you, and you get emails, and you go to your Facebook page, and you see all these comments, and you're like, well, I didn't realize that it was so special, and people were so supportive in us getting there. So it was quite the experience, and I want to share it with you guys, because one of the things how I deal with Aconcagua is just stay active, right? You keep hiking, and as long as you can do extreme stuff like this, why not, right? It's healthy. We help BC Children's. You make friends. It's a good way of, and I like to see different countries as well. So I got a chance to visit Argentina, which was pretty spectacular. And so it's not for everyone. It's my wife would never do it. She says, you're crazy. What's like Malcolm said, why would you do something that you would kill yourself, right? But I guess we all have that in us in some way, that you try to find how far you can push yourselves, and what you can accomplish in life. So if anyone has any questions, or I'm happy to answer them. It's no questions? No one wants to do it? Nav, you're a young guy, you can do it.
Peter, I can't believe you're saying no. You went down there to visit.
I'm lucky if I'm able to get to the gym. 10 days from away from the house, and she let me in.
You never know.
How do you feel that you're academically interfered, like compared to other people on the
On the climb?
hike? Yeah.
It wasn't not much of a difference for me, to be honest. What I should say though, I did check in with Michelle Johnson, our endocrinologist, and say, am I okay? And she said, well, I just done a blood test, and she goes like, your cortisol level is super low, and she was really worried about that. So she said, you take another blood test, and then the cortisol was okay. So she said she said if that had low level had persisted, then we'd have to give you some extra medicine. So she did really check whether all my markers were fine, and they were.
Just, with our blood numbers, sort of our kilter compared to other people.
Yeah, but for I don't think so. Yeah,
Your wedding ring.
yeah, my wedding, and I had diarrhea. But no one, everyone had that a little bit.
Not pressure in the head and all that kind of stuff.
No, my head was fine. So it's different. I think the whole altitude thing. It's good that you ask it now. It's a genetic thing. So you have super fit people who do triathlons or marathons, and they would fail. I would outwalk them on the mountain because their body is not good for altitudes. My body is relatively okay with altitude. That's why we decided to do it. I knew after doing Kilimanjaro I was okay. But you have very lean guys who, when we did Kilimanjaro, there was a guy who was coming down. He looked terrible, and it turned out he was a pretty famous British soccer player, and he was in the news. But he was a great soccer player, but he couldn't do altitude. So I don't think the acromegaly interferes with it that much. But yeah.
With the transsphenoidal surgery, did that affect you?
The surgery?
Yeah, like
No. No, my breathing was a bit, but was a bit heavy at times, but generally no. No, I didn't have any problems that I would directly relate to acromegaly. No. Stiff joints though after a while, but you when you do 9-hour days, you even the fittest person gets that, right? It's
What are your normal oxygen levels?
I don't know.
Oh.
No.
You've never done oxygen test or anything?
No, I wouldn't be able to give you that number. I don't know.
I don't know if it's common because mine are like 90.
Mm-hmm.
And when they exercise, they go into the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. They were good enough because when you,
with the doctor, he wouldn't have let you go.
exactly. So the doctor tests for that, and they look at you, and it might.
It's supposed to be 97 to 100%.
Yeah.
And that's normal on me anyways.
Yeah.
And when they go below 90, you're supposed to be fainting for
Yeah.
90.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's, you have to go to the mountains. They wouldn't let you do a trip like that unless you're on too much or high.
Yeah, because there were cases where the doctor, and for other groups of climbers we saw there, where the doctor said, you're out, your body cannot handle it. So they take it pretty seriously.
Go to base camp like that without
Yeah.
oxygen.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you.